Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to No Static Radio. We don't bring the static, but we sure enough bring the noise. You are now listening to The Right Side. I am your host, Doggett, coming to you on the greatest station in the nation, from the greatest location in the nation. And as we do each week, we shout out all of you that are listening to us as far north as Kennebunkport, Maine, as far south as Key West, Florida, as far east as Staten Island, New York, and as far west as Stockton, California, and all the points in between. For those of you that are listening to us around the world, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whichever greeting best suits the time zone that you are in. You know, folks, there are several things that you can do to stop the spread of respiratory diseases like COVID 19. Number one, wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with warm soap and water. Now, if you don't know what 20 seconds are, you just sing happy birthday to yourself, and when you complete the song, you have completed 20 seconds. Number two, cover your mouth when you cough and sneeze. Yes, I know that sounds like common sense, but how many of you, like me, that know that the least common thing these days is common sense? Number three, wipe down frequently touched objects and items with some type of disinfectant, and also put some type of hand sanitizer in your vehicle so that when you go to the gas station and pump gas, since you do not know who touched that pump prior to you can then sanitize your hands with the hand sanitizer. Number four, stay away from people who are sick, and you stay at home when you are sick. That job will go on regardless of whether you are there or not. And finally, if you are in an enclosed area like a mall or a store or a church or a sports arena or a movie theater, whatever the case may be, please wear your mask and please, if at all possible, social distance from those that are around you. Folks, this pandemic is not over. In fact, it's more from a pandemic into an endemic, meaning that it's going to be around for the foreseeable future. So please take the necessary measures and steps to protect yourself and your loved ones from COVID 19. This was brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station, No Static Radio, where we don't bring the static, but we sure to bring the noise, powered by Google and sponsored by Lamont Avenue Wines. If you are in the Cleveland area or Northeast Ohio on the first or third Saturday of each month, which would have been today, by the way, I've got some outstanding news for you. Every first and third Saturday of the month, right here in Cleveland, Ohio, at 6812 Woodland Avenue, between the hours of 11 a.m. and 2 p.m., guess what they are doing, folks? They are giving away a free bag of groceries. That's right, that's what I said, a free bag of groceries. No questions asked. You do not have to show proof of residence. So those of you that are outside of Northeast Ohio or the Cleveland area, that does not disqualify you. You do not have to show proof of income. You do not have to show anything except for one thing, and that is show up in the case that you show up so that you can take advantage of this offer. But not only that, folks, not only do you get the free bag of groceries, but you also get free clothing for both adults and children. That's right, free clothing for you, free clothing for your children, no questions asked. Now, it would be great if they just stopped there, but no, they don't stop there, because if you're there between 11:30 a.m. and 1:30 p.m., in addition to the free bag of groceries, in addition to the free clothes for you and your children, you get a free hot lunch, a home-cooked hot meal. So, folks, you can't beat that at all. You get free groceries, you get free clothing, and if you're there between 11:30 a.m. and 1:30 p.m., you go home with a full stomach of some scrumptious food. And where is this, you ask? It's at 6812 Woodland Avenue in Cleveland, Ohio. When is it, you ask? It is the first and third Saturday of each month. And we want to commend, because this has been going on for a while, we want to commend Major Care Ministries, we want to commend the Greater Cleveland Food Bank, and we also want to commend Williams Temple Church of God in Christ, who houses this every first and third Saturday of the month. Kudos to all of those organizations. For those of you that are new to this program, this is what we do. We talk sports and politics and the issues of the day. I throw some topics out on the table. I give my take on those topics, and then we invite you to call in with your take on those same topics at 216-939-5087. 216-939-5087. Now, for those of you that are outside of Northeast Ohio, no, there's not a toll-free number. But since most of you are dialing on your cell phones anyway, there's no toll charge anyway. So 216-939-5087 is the number. We encourage you to call because we like having dialogue back and forth. So if there's something that strikes your fancy about the topics that we're going to talk about or something that you have a take on, please give us a call at that number. So this is what we have today. On the table today, we're going to talk about a very unusual situation that's going on within the Cuyahoga County jail system right here in Northeast Ohio. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the Kyrie Irving situation with him and his controversial retweet, sharing the link where people can go to get the movie from Hebrews to Negroes. And we're going to talk about that, but we're going to talk about Kyrie Irving, but we're also going to look at a different angle that not many in the media are talking about, that I think is this entity is equally as culpable, if not more so, than Kyrie Irving. So stay tuned for that as well. We're also going to look at we're going to do a preview, I should say, rather, of the upcoming midterm election. This is the last weekend prior to the midterm elections this Tuesday. If you haven't not voted already early or by absentee, we are strongly encouraging you to go and vote on this coming Tuesday. If you're not registered, you can't vote now, but you should have registered long ago. If you're a regular listener to this program, you have no excuse for not being registered because we told you months ago and admonished you to go and register at that time. But if you are a registered voter and you have not yet voted in early voting in whatever state you reside, you still have until Tuesday to do so at the polls. So we're going to look at that. And then we're also going to, on our sports side, we're going to look at the first college football playoff rankings that came out this past Wednesday. So there you are. Those are our topics. And we also have our hero and our zero of the week. And as we said, you can get engaged and get involved in this tete-a-tete, if you will, at 216-939-5087. In Cuyahoga County, let me preface this by saying this first. Going to jail is a traumatic experience. Being arrested is a very traumatic experience. Fortunately, I've never gone to jail. I've never experienced that. But I can just only imagine that being arrested for any offense, whatever it is, and then having to go to jail and spend time in jail while awaiting trial for whatever that offense is a very traumatic experience. You have no freedom. You're away from your family. You are locked up with people who may have violent tendencies. It's just not the most ideal place to be. And given that is already a traumatic experience, given the fact that it's a place where many who go there are fearful, it doesn't help matters when so many have gone in and as alive and come out in a body bag. And what I'm talking about here is specific and to Cuyahoga County here in the state of Ohio. For those of you that are outside of Ohio or that are in other parts of Ohio, Cuyahoga County is the county where Cleveland is, where I reside, where this program is emanating from. And over the last 4 years, the Cuyahoga County Jail, which is in downtown Cleveland, it's housed in the Justice Center. Over a 4-year period, there have been 18 deaths inside of that facility. Now, we're not talking about a maximum security prison here. Most times, people in the Cuyahoga County Jail, because they're being held there because they either cannot post bond, so they're awaiting sentencing, or they're there because they're awaiting sentencing, and they're there because they have been remanded, or whatever the case may be. Right? But we're not talking about a state penitentiary, a maximum security state penitentiary where sadly deaths do occur. We're talking about the county jail here in Cuyahoga County, here in the state of Ohio. So over a 4-year period in that jail, there were 18 deaths in that jail. That is an average of 4.2 deaths per year. And to put this in perspective, for those of you that are listening, say, okay, Jeff, so what? What's the big deal about that? To put it in perspective, 18 deaths over 4 years, 4.2 deaths per year. There were not those many executions in the state of Ohio over that same period. As a matter of fact, since the year 2017, there were only 3 executions in the state of Ohio since 2017. So roughly a 5-year period. And yet in a 4-year period, in the Cuyahoga County Jail, there were 18 deaths in 4 years. Now, the reason why I bring this up and talk about this is that how is this happening? Why is this happening? And who is responsible for this? Well, there is a candidate running for the Cuyahoga County Executive Director. And this candidate's name is Chris Romaine, right? And the reason why I bring him up is that his response to this, that the 4 deaths a year basically is, quote, and I hesitate because it just stuns me that he says this, but he says, quote, I quote him, and this is his quote, he says that it is by no means a factor. In other words, this is an acceptable amount. He is saying that 4 deaths per year is an acceptable amount. Okay? Mind you, this is someone who is running for a position that if he is elected will have some authority over the Cuyahoga County Jail. And he made the statement, and again, I will say it again for you, and I'm not here to endorse him or his opponent, who is Lee Weingart, that's running against him, is a Republican running against him. And as you heard me say on this program many times, I don't ride donkeys or elephants. I just tell the truth and let the truth and let that fall where it may. Now, before I go on though, let me just talk about this for a moment. I am not a supporter of the death penalty. So I'm not here decrying the fact that there's only been 3 executions in the state of Ohio since 2017, and we're talking about the entire state, but 18 deaths in a prison facility in one county. I'm not here saying that, coming here on the air and trying to insinuate that I'm in favor that there should be more executions, that there should be at least 18 executions in the state of Ohio. There are several people that are on death row right now in the state of Ohio as we speak. And I am a staunch opponent of the death penalty. So I'm not coming on here comparing these numbers to try to get the numbers of executions, if you will, in the state of Ohio up so they can be on par with the number of deaths in the Cuyahoga County Jail. That is not my intention here. My intention here is to put it out here and ask, why is this happening, and why could a candidate from a major party who, if elected, one of his responsibilities will be to oversee what goes on within that Cuyahoga County jail, why can Chris Monet make the comment that 4 deaths a year is an acceptable number?
Right.
Now, what you have to understand too is this, and I'm not playing the race card. I'm just, again, I'm stating facts and putting the truth out. But an overwhelming percentage of people that are locked up in the Cuyahoga County jail are people of color. And the majority of those 18 deaths in a 4-year period have been, that's right, you guessed it, people of color. So many have been ruled as suicides or accidental deaths. But my question is, if this is the case, then why is this happening so often? Why do we have these suicides in the jail? Why are we having these so-called, quote, accidental deaths, unquote? It seems to me that if you had 18 in a 4-year period, as I said, 4.2, almost 4.5 deaths a year. And if you are buying the fact, which I'm very skeptical on whether or not what we're being told is the truth of the nature of these deaths. But if you're buying it, then why isn't something being done within the jail to curb the number of deaths that we are seeing? Why is it that Cuyahoga County far exceeds any other county in the state of Ohio when it comes to deaths within their county jail? And why is the number of 4 deaths per year an acceptable number according to County Executive candidate Chris Monet? That's not acceptable for me. I don't know how you all in the listening audience, whether you're in Cuyahoga County or not, but I don't know how you feel on that, but feel about that rather. But 18 deaths in 4 years, 18.
That's true.
And that's right, Marie. That's way too many. 18 deaths of suspicious nature in a 4-year period. And again, I'm not advocating for executions. I'm not advocating for the death penalty. I oppose the death penalty. But only 3 executions in the state of Ohio since 2017. You don't believe me, you go do what I do. You can go and look it up. Google search how many executions there were in the state of Ohio in the last 4 years. And you will see that there have been 3 of them. The last one was in 2019. But roughly in that same time period, 18 deaths within the Cuyahoga County jail. Something is not right here. To quote the line from Shakespeare, something is rotten in Denmark. Something is rotten here in Cleveland. And with all of the focus and the attention of the Black Lives Matter movement on police reform, why is there nothing being said or very little being said regarding what's going on within our county jail system? I mean, think about this, folks. Our society, especially here in the good old USA, since 9/11, has become surveillance on steroids. You've got cameras on street corners in major cities. You've got drones that are flying around that are observing things all across the country. And again, I'm not knocking that. I understand why they're doing that because they're trying to prevent against another terrorist attack. But let me just throw this in parenthetically too. The greatest threat of a terrorist attack now is not so much from overseas.
Right.
And this is not just me saying this. This is
A fact.
a fact that was said by FBI Director Christopher Wray that the greatest threat in America as far as terrorism is concerned is domestic terrorism from white supremacists
Yep.
and militia groups. Like the one, for example, in Michigan, who plotted to kidnap Governor Whitmer last year and put her on trial, military tribunal type of trial, if you will, and then execute her. And the Attorney General there in the state of Michigan prosecuted all of them, and thankfully they're either all locked up or they're awaiting trial to hopefully be convicted and locked up. By the way, those of you that listen to us in Michigan, your Attorney General's race is very important. You need to retain the Attorney General you have. You know why? Her opponent said that if she's elected, that she's going to release those who've been convicted in the plot to kidnap and execute the governor of Michigan. More on that when we talk about the midterm elections coming up. So, again, I am not advocating the death penalty. I'm an opponent of capital punishment. Okay? I don't believe it's a deterrent to crime, and it's the only form of punishment that if you get it wrong, you can't correct the mistake. That being said, as I was saying, with all the surveillance that we have in this country right now, as I said, cameras everywhere you go, drones everywhere, monitoring on social media sites. Some will even say that this is an intrusion into our civil liberties. All of that, and yet, in a facility where people are locked up, where you don't have to worry about domestic terrorism, you don't have to worry about terrorist acts or what have you, because these people are under surveillance. You're going to tell me and expect me to believe that you have no surveillance where you can see what's going on, where you can tell if a person is in distress or they're going to commit suicide or what have you while they're locked up in your cell. You mean to tell me you're not able? Someone that's in the system, please call 216-939-5087 and explain it to me. I don't know. I'm throwing this question out here because I'd like to know the information because it doesn't make sense to me. You know, to borrow the line from the old program Lost in Space, this does not compute. It does not compute. And especially, and again, as I said, I'm not playing the race card, I'm just stating the fact. Especially given the fact that the overwhelming majority of these 18 people who died in the Cuyahoga County jail, which is, as I said in the beginning of this, is not a maximum security facility. 15 of them are people of color. And Chris Monaine can say, well, you know, 4 deaths a year, that's an acceptable number. I wonder what Mr. Monaine would say if the numbers were flipped. Of those 18 who died, and I'm not accusing, let me preface this, I'm not accusing him of being a racist, okay?
But it's quite racist what he's doing.
To go to that. I'm just asking the question. Someone from the Ronayne campaign could call in and explain to me why this is an acceptable number. Because from my viewpoint, from my standpoint, one a year over
It's
4
too
year
many.
period
Yeah.
is too much.
Yep.
I know things happen. And I'm not saying, because I don't know. I don't know whether there were some suspicious circumstances in these cases. Maybe all of them, sadly, were legitimate, either suicides or deaths from natural unknown causes. Maybe they were. But even if they were, that still does not lend any credence, in my opinion, to the statement that Mr. Ronayne made, saying that 4 deaths a year is an acceptable. Again, and I won't be adversarial about it. If someone from the campaign or one of Mr. Ronayne's supporters are listening right now, give me a call. I will let you have your say. I'll let you have your platform. Give me a call, 216-939-5087. Yes. I would really like to hear the explanation. And then, once you give me the explanation, then maybe I can get a better understanding and a clearer perspective on what he is talking about. Because right now, I'm not understanding it, and I can't fathom the perspective at all that he's coming. So, those of you that are in Cuyahoga County, you have a decision to make on Tuesday. To vote for either Chris Ronayne or his opponent, Lee Weingart. That's your choice. And before any of you out there are thinking, especially Mr. Ronayne supporters, that I'm on here doing a political hack job, I'm not doing it. All I'm doing is reporting on what he said. You see, I don't just come on the air and just start talking off the top of my head. Throughout the week, I do research on topics and what have you. And this story came up on a site that I frequently call newsbreak.com. And I saw this story. And saw his response. And so I felt that it was important enough to talk about it, regardless of whether he's running on Tuesday or not. To me, that has nothing to do with it. And I'm not endorsing him, nor am I endorsing his opponent, Lee Weingart. I haven't given an endorsement to either one, and I'm not going to give an endorsement to either. It's not that I have anything against either one of the candidates. I just choose not to endorse anyone in this particular race. But it is a question. And again, if any one that out there that's affiliated with the Ronayne campaign, or friend of Mr. Ronayne, or is going to vote for him, we would like. I'll give you the airtime you need. You call in, as I said, you call in now and explain the position, because the position to me is untenable. I can't fathom it. I can't understand it. And again, maybe you can help me see the light of day on this, so I can get some type of understanding on this. You listen to the right side on No Static Radio. We don't do the static on the show up with the noise. Our call-in number is 216-939-5087. 216-939-5087. Okay. Here we go. Here is the hot topic of the week, if you will. topic that has transcended sports, that is the number one topic on MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, ESPN, Fox Sports, etc. This topic has transcended sports. It's become a national debate. And of course, the story that we're talking about here is the Kyrie Irving story, where, for those who don't know, where he been, but just in case, I never assume anything, Kyrie Irving, on last week, retweeted a link to the movie Hebrews to Negroes. All right? He tweeted this, and this movie was based on a book that was written. And the movie contains some highly controversial material. For example, right, it says the entire title of the movie is Hebrews to Negroes, Wake Up Black America.
Mm-hmm.
The film says that the Jews of today are not actual Jews, that they culturally appropriated black culture. And culturally appropriated, I'm sorry, not black culture, culturally appropriated the heritage of black people. It also includes Holocaust denial, all right, that the Holocaust did not take place. All right. It also includes thoughts that there's an international conspiracy of Jews to try to take over the world. It also includes in there thoughts that Jews control all the finance and all the media of the world, and things of this nature. That's what's in there. Now, Kyrie Irving tweeted the link to the movie last week. And then a week ago tonight, after Brooklyn Nets game, he was questioned in a post-game press conference about it. And his answers that he gave were, how should I put it, were not very, I'm trying to walk a fine line here. Didn't really answer questions, okay? And so the controversy then grew even more so, to the point that the ADL, which came out with statements about Kyrie Irving and the film. Okay, the ADL is the Anti-Defamation League. Mm-hmm. So what Kyrie Irving did try to do with he and the Brooklyn Nets. So what happened was, after the Saturday interview, the next two games, the Brooklyn Nets did not make Kyrie Irving available to the league. Well, that move backfired. They thought that was going to make it go away, but that just made it fester even more and more. So on Tuesday, Kyrie Irving and the Nets gave $500,000. Kyrie Irving gave $500,000, and Nets gave $500,000 to the Anti-Defamation League to fight against discrimination and
wow,
and also causes that they fight against. But Kyrie Irving had an interview that we're going to play in just a few minutes. That after that interview, the ADL basically said that they're not going to accept the check because they don't feel it was given in good faith, that Kyrie Irving really has not, for lack of a better term, repented from his views. Now, before we play the interview, though, let me say this. Kyrie Irving all he did was retweet the link to this movie. However, his mistake, and then he came back later and said that he didn't realize that some of the things that were in the movie that were in there, things that we covered. His mistake was retweeting a link to a movie without knowing exactly what the content of the movie was in the first place. Right? So before you're going to, and when you retweet, those of you that are on Twitter, you know. Because the first defense to him was, well, all he did, he's just a basketball player, he just retweeted something. But come on, folks, you all know that when you're on Twitter, when you retweet something, well, I'll speak for myself. If you're different from me, then okay, fine. When I retweet something on Twitter, to my Twitter feed, I'm retweeting it because I'm in agreement with it, and I want people who follow me to see it as well. So by retweeting it, I cannot buy the argument that, well, you know, all he did is retweet the link. That doesn't mean he supports it. No, you only retweet stuff that you support and you want people to see and get information. Now,
that I agree with.
That being said, before we play this interview, let me say this. Kyrie Irving did not distribute the film. Kyrie Irving does not have a platform where you can go and watch the film live stream. You know who does though?
Come on now, Jeff.
Is Jeff Bezos, the multi-billionaire who is the CEO and the owner of Amazon Prime. Now, if you don't believe me, if you're sitting at your computer right now, just go to your search engine and do a Google search. Type in Hebrews to Negroes film, and when you enter that, see what comes up. You're going to see several sites that say, purchase this film or download this film on www.amazon.com.
They got the book too.
And they have the book. If you want the book, you can get that off of Amazon.com. Now, am I saying that Amazon should not have this readily available for people who want to see the film or to buy the book? No, I'm not saying that. Because I don't believe in censorship. However, here's the question. Why isn't there an outrage from ESPN, from Fox News, from MSNBC, from CNN, from Adam Silver, from the Brooklyn Nets? Why isn't there an equal outrage, if not more so, towards Jeff Bezos and Amazon?
Right. Come on.
Because they are the ones who have the power
to remove it.
To remove the film where no one can see it. They are the ones who have the power to remove the book, so you can't go on Amazon and purchase it. Now, I'm not advocating them to do it, even though I do not plan on viewing the film or reading the book myself because I have no interest in it. I'm not going to buy into it. The ones who are behind it already know what they stand for, so I don't need to see the film or to read their book because I already know what they stand for. The ones who are behind this all are the Hebrew Israelites. And I already know what they stand for, and I stand diametrically opposed to their viewpoints and what they stand for. My question, though, is why isn't this multi-billionaire? There has not been one word mentioned in any mainstream media at all about Amazon and Jeff Bezos making this film and book readily available. See, all Kyrie Irving did was tweet the link to go where you can see it. And now he has to answer all the questions he had to answer, which I don't think he did, especially the first interview he did. I don't think he did it in a good manner. then you have to consider the source there too, because those of you know Kyrie know that Kyrie is he's Kyrie, all right. He's a different kind of guy.
Yeah, can I speak on it too real quick, Jeff?
Yeah.
You know what I got a problem with is the fact that the media chose to go back to this, but we ain't talking about Brett Favre. Ain't nobody Brett Favre done stole from millions of poor people, and they went in and out that subject, but every week they find something about a black man to attack. I don't totally agree with everything because I saw the video and I have the book. It was given to me by somebody else, but to speak on it because I feel like it's important that if you're going to criticize it or go against it or whatever, that you should at least know the contents of it. It was not all false. It's being proven right now. Nick Cannon said something, about history, and they shut him down. Well, Kyrie history, put up something about history, and they shut him down. Viacom is owned by the Jewish people.
Right.
For Jewish owners. Viacom, the biggest entity in media. The biggest.
Right, and I don't have a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I don't have a problem with it. People saying that the Jews founded Hollywood and what have you. Fine.
I don't know about all that.
They put their money together and they did it. And the record industry, when major labels, especially in the 40s and 50s, weren't playing black music, Jewish record labels and what have you, signed black artists. And now the controversy now today is about rap and hip hop and the destructive lyrics that are in there and that are spoken by the artists who are primarily, if not exclusively, black here and there, and who owns the record companies. But my counter to that argument is, you as an artist, you have the artistic freedom, if you will, to control what you're going to say in your song. So, but my whole thing is that this multi-billionaire who has distributed this film and the book, and again, I'm not saying, hear me, I'm not saying that he shouldn't do it, because I don't believe in censorship. Even things that are of vile nature, even, in this, they quote Hitler, anything that you quote Hitler, to me, anyway, should not be supported. But you have a right to make your decision. My problem is all of the smoke, all of the heat, if you will, that Kyrie Irving is getting for, again, retweeting a link, and the link that he retweeted is a link to Amazon. But the owner, the CEO, the CFO, the head honcho, whatever you want to call him, of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, is not being called on the carpet at all about this. And the question is why? Well, we know the answer because Jeff Bezos, I already said this, Jeff Bezos is a billionaire. That's why. And he can basically do whatever. There was a story earlier this week where Jeff Bezos and Sean Carter, who many of you know as Jay-Z, are rumored to be coming together to purchase the Washington Commanders if and when Daniel Snyder sells. Now, would he be able to do that? Would he be mentioning a purchase group if he was catching heat and catching smoke behind his entity promoting the film, if you will? Because they said Kyrie was promoting it when he retweeted.
Wow. So what is Jeff Bezos?
So then if he was promoting it when he retweeted it, then what is Jeff Bezos doing? Because he has it on his site. And like I said, if you're listening to me, if you haven't done so already, just type in the title of the movie and enter and see what comes up on your screen. And to Marie's point, I bet 70% of you out there that are listening to me right now don't even know what she was talking about when she mentioned Brett Favre. Of course, if you listen to the show about a month or so ago, we talked about that story.
Mm-hmm. I got another familiar story, Jeff, that they didn't make a big stink about it all. When Joey Bosa had a Beyonce doll and he put a noose on it and hung it and then posted it on Twitter.
There's another.
He said quite a few racist things and did a few racist acts, and no one said nothing. And he still was, because he's from Ohio State, he still got drafted to the San Francisco 49ers. No one said a word.
Well, talent will, as we know, talent will always usurp behavior. We've talked about that.
I can't.
But Brett Favre has literally built millions of poor Mississippians. Mississippi is the poorest state in the country. We talked about this story back in September, I believe. Out of monies that were supposed to go to them for welfare and to help them, instead went to build a new volleyball facility for the women's volleyball team at Southern Miss, where he went to school, where his daughter is a student and is on the volleyball team.
Formally.
That story went away so quick. You heard about it maybe 2 or 3 days, and that's it. You haven't heard anything else about it. But again, all I'm asking is this. Just be fair. Kyrie should not have retweeted the link without knowing what everything was about. Folks, that should be a warning. Don't retweet stuff that you don't know. Or you don't, and I'm going to buy his argument. He said that he didn't know some things that were in the content. But let's hear, now this was his latest interview prior to his suspension by the Brooklyn Nets. As a matter of fact, it was after this interview that the Brooklyn Nets suspended him for 5 games, and that the ADL rejected his $500,000 check. So listen to this interview and then we'll come back.
Are you sorry for the hurt I take my responsibility for fixing that. Some things that were questionable in there, honestly. Like I said, the first time you guys asked me when I was sitting on that stage, I don't believe everything that everybody posts about the name. So, I take my responsibility. In your mind, you said that he was causing harm. Were you apologizing or not? I didn't mean to cause any harm. I'm not the one that made the documentary.
Come on now. Listen, you're not selling it.
I think some of the criticism of the Jewish faith in the community, for sure. Some points made in there that were unfortunate. Are you surprised that you did hurt people? Surprised that I did hurt people? Are you surprised that you acted in the things that you did hurt people? Yeah, I think I can ask a better question. Just, where were you when I was a kid? Figuring out that 300 million of my ancestors are buried in America. Where were you guys asking those same questions when I was a kid dealing with learning about the traumatic events of my familial history?
Right.
And what I'm proud to come from.
Why they hide it from us. Right.
And why, when I repeat myself that I'm not going to stand down, it has nothing to do with this missing any of the race.
That's right.
I'm just proud of my heritage and what we've been through. And the fact that this is pending against the Jewish community. And I'm here answering questions of whether or not I'm sorry or not on something I didn't create. And it was something I shared. And I'm telling everybody I'm taking responsibility. And that's where I sit.
Period.
So, these same questions that you guys ask, me dealing with it as being a melanated, pigmented person all around the world and dealing with racial biases against my skin color, demeaning me because of my religious beliefs. And I'm still sitting in the seat standing.
Period.
So I take my full responsibility. Again, I'll repeat it for posting something on my Instagram or Twitter that may have had some unfortunate falsehoods in it. But I also am a human being that's 30 years old and I'm growing up in a country that's told me that I wasn't worth anything.
Yeah, they want you to forget slavery. They want us to forget slavery, but never forget the Holocaust. Never forget 9/11. They want us to forget slavery. They want us to put it behind us.
Atrocities or tragic events that their families have dealt with generations of time. I'm just here to continue to expose things that our world continues to put in darkness.
Yep.
I'm a light. I'm a beacon of light.
Yes, you are.
That's what I'm here to do. You guys ask me questions about basketball, I give you my expert opinion.
Yeah.
You guys ask me about other things, I give you my opinion, and it's met with whatever you believe the perception or the deception is. You guys investigate my life every day, and you justify it by serving your own purpose, which I honor. I would like the same respect in return.
Period. Period.
Figuring out just like anyone else. So please keep that same energy when we're talking about anti-other things.
You're right.
Because just because I post a document doesn't mean I'm anti-Semitic. It doesn't mean I'm automatically standing with everyone that.
But that documentary wasn't no for a lot.
It's unfortunate timing that we're in, but I'm glad that I can stand on the truth because I'm not afraid of these mics, these cameras. I used to be looking everyone in the eye and telling them the truth. And I'm proud of who I am.
Yes,
Any
Kyrie.
label that you put on me, I'm able to dismiss because I studied. I know the Oxford Dictionary, you look it up, right? One of the biggest mistakes I had being a kid was not knowing European or Western language. So I started looking it up and understanding the definitions and why they say, if you want to trick a black person, put them in a book.
Yep. Yep.
I was wondering my whole life why they said that.
Yeah.
Now I'm
They
30
came
years
up
old
with
and
that
I know
slogan.
reading is a superpower. This helps me understand where I'm going and where I come from.
Yeah.
Like a tree with roots.
Come on.
Harry,
Trip.
Again, those falsehoods are unfortunate. It's not that I don't believe in the Holocaust. I never said that. I never, ever have said it. It's not coming out of my mouth.
Yeah, because we know the Holocaust is real.
Like it. So, the Holocaust in itself is an event that means something to a large group of people that suffered something that could have been avoided.
Yeah.
No one said we had to practice racism. No one said we had to treat each other like garbage. No one said that I had to stand here today and understand that many people that come from generations 60 years ago, 40 years ago, enslaved some of my ancestors still, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, it's still going on. You guys are asking me, respectfully, to speak on something that was documented that I had nothing to do with. I didn't make it. So, please keep that same energy when you guys are addressing me.
Period, Kyrie. Period, Pooh.
Again, I'm going to repeat. I don't know how the label becomes justified because you guys ask me the same questions over and over again. But this is not going to turn into a spin around cycle, questions upon questions. I told you guys how I felt. I respect all walks of life and embrace all walks of life.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I said.
Period.
What? I cannot be anti-Semitic if I know where I come from.
Period.
I cannot be anti-Semitic if I know where I come from. I was informed that they wanted to have a meeting, and we handled it.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. So that was the interview. So after that interview aired is when the Anti-Defamation League rejected the $500,000 check that Kyrie Irving offered to the ADL. It was also after that interview was when NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said that he was going to have a meeting with Kyrie Irving, the date to be announced. And it was also after that interview that the Brooklyn Nets suspended him for 5 games. Now, here is the problem. And why I believe that those three things happened. I'm not saying that I agree with what happened. I'm just telling you this is why it happened. We're dealing with semantics here, folks. because if Kyrie Irving would have come out and said the words, "I am sorry for this," however you want to say it, I don't believe that the Nets would have suspended him 5 games. The ADL would have taken the $500,000 check. And Adam Silver, who was silent prior to that, and he deserves some criticism for that too, because he waited too long before he said anything at all. I don't think any of that would have happened. So basically, from my viewpoint, the reason that Kyrie Irving is suspended for 5 games now is semantics, that he did not say the words, "I'm sorry." Now, there are some in the media who agree with me. They take it even to another level where I'm not ready to take it to that. They believe that his reinstatement by the Nets won't occur until he does say, "I am sorry." Now, we'll see about that, but I'm not buying that. And in fact, now it just came back to me to my memory. After he was suspended, he did tweet out that he was sorry for any remarks that may have hurt someone. So he did say that. So he did say it, but this was after the suspension, after the Adam Silver announcement, and after the rejection of the $500,000 payment by the ADL. Then after he was suspended, he did tweet out. I can't remember if it was on Twitter or it was on Instagram, but regardless of which social media platform it was on, he did tweet out or put on IG his apology. So I think that when the 5 games are up, that they will reinstate him. Now, that just goes to show you the maelstrom, if you will, is going on. That the maelstrom is called the Brooklyn Nets. I wouldn't want to coach that team for all the tea in China. To show you too some of the hypocrisy, and we'll go to break on this. But show you too some of the hypocrisy that goes on, folks. Steve Nash was fired. For those of you who don't know, Steve Nash was the Brooklyn Nets head coach. He was fired on Tuesday of this week. I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. He was fired. And the immediate, in the interim, Jock Bond is the interim coach of the Nets. But the immediate response to the firing of Steve Nash is that suspended Celtics coach Ime Udoka is going to be the Brooklyn Nets' next head coach, regardless of the fact that he's suspended for reasons that none of us know. That something happened of a consensual nature between him and a female employee of the Boston Celtics that led to his year-long suspension.
We still don't know who she is.
The question is, if he is suspended, and Marcus Smart, one of the Celtics players, he fucked this up the other night. He said, wait a minute, if he's suspended, then how can he go and coach one of our rivals in the same conference? That's a good question, Marcus. That's the same thing up there. How can a guy that's suspended for reasons that have been kept in-house, and, the Celtics don't actually have to let the public know why. They don't have to release names. They kept it in-house. But something doesn't smell right. You're going to suspend him and basically tell him, well, yeah, you're suspended, but, if you can get a job somewhere else, we suggest you go do it. Then why do you just go outright and fire him?
Right.
You suspended him for the whole season, and you're willing to allow him to go to a division rival, not only just a conference rival, but a rival within your own division, who, by the way, could be the perfect elixir for what the Nets need. Because despite whatever his off-court indiscretions were with whoever he did his indiscretions with, And Doggett is a heck of a basketball coach.
Mm-hmm.
He turned the Celtics around last year in January because there were some rumors that they were going to get rid of him then. And he basically told them, no, well, not get rid of him, but they were going to trade either Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. And he basically had a come to Jesus meeting with them. Basically told them it's my way or the highway. And the Celtics, from January to the end of the season, far and away had the best record in the NBA and got all the way to 2 games away from winning the NBA title last year. So you're going to allow a coach like that, again, despite whatever his off-court indiscretions were, which we don't know about, they're being kept in-house by the Celtics. You're going to allow him to walk and go and coach a team in your division,
Mm-hmm.
a rival team in your division, a rival team in your conference, that arguably has 2 of the top 10 players in the league on it, and you knew what he did with your team last year.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, the Nets are dysfunctional. The Nets have a lot of issues, but the Nets have a lot of talent. They still have Kevin Durant. They still have Kyrie Irving. They can get Ben Simmons together mentally. Ben Simmons, former runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year and 3-time All-NBA defensive, first team All-NBA defense. They've got shooters in Patty Mills and Seth Curry and former Cleveland Cavalier Joe Harris. So the Nets are not a bad team. And the scary thing about it is, if Ime Udoka becomes their coach, he can be the one that can get them to realize their potential. He will get them to play defense. They're horrible. They're not just a bad defensive team. They're a horrible defensive team. You saw what type of defensive team the Celtics became last year. They were one of the top defensive teams. Them and the Warriors were 1-2 in defense in the NBA last year. So you let him go to that team, and he gets them together. You're talking about something that can greatly influence and affect not only just the Eastern Conference, but the NBA period. So how is the NBA allowing that to happen? How can a guy that's suspended from one team, hasn't been fired, it's different if he's fired, he can go wherever he wants.
Mm-hmm.
But how's a guy that's still part of an organization, he's just suspended, can he be released to go coach a rival team within his division, let alone his conference, knowing what they know about what he can possibly do? And you're the Celtics, and you're going to let that happen? You're listening to the right side on No Static Radio. We don't bring the static, but we're showing to bring the noise. Our calling number is 216-939-5087. 216-939-5087. We're going to take a break here. We're going to listen to some music and a couple commercials. And we'll be back at you in the second hour with our second hour of our program, where we will be talking about the upcoming midterm elections and our thoughts on the first college football playoff.
Let me check. I was just about to look that up.
fired our own girl, Tiffany Cross. She had a show at Cross Connection.
Oh wow.
It came on Saturdays at noon, from 10 to noon rather.
Hmm.
They dismissed it.
I'm only playing half of this. That is Has violence happened? Uh-oh, what's going on? Has violence happened to you and your family? Violence can affect all parts of your life, sometimes in ways you can't see. Violence can affect the way you eat, sleep. It causes you to lose focus, feel angry, afraid, or even use drugs or drinking as a way to escape. But we're here to tell you that violence doesn't have to keep hurting, and you can change your life starting now with help from the Trauma Recovery Center. We want you to take control of your life. Today can be the day. The Trauma Recovery Center offers real help for real needs in real time. They offer services for emotional support, sickness, and a whole lot more. So listen, don't let violence control you. You can break free, and TRC can help. Give them a call at 216-644-5487. They will come to you wherever you are. They're free, they're 24/7 and confidential. They offer real help for real needs in real time. So look, if you want out and don't know where to start, call the Trauma Recovery Center. The Trauma Recovery Center will help you take back your life after trauma starting today. Call today and get the help you need today. 216-644-5487. If you're listening, and also the number is on the screen. Let me say it again. They offer services for emotional support, safety, and a whole lot more. So don't let violence control you. The Trauma Recovery Center of Northeast Ohio, also affiliated with the Center for Families and Children. Again, 216-644-5487. The Trauma Recovery Center of Northeast Ohio, also affiliated with the Center for Families and Children. And so, every week we do what we call our History 365 here at No Static Radio. And this week, I would like to introduce to some and reintroduce to others. And the reason why I'm doing this person, important to explain nowadays, the reason why I'm doing this person is because for me growing up, first of all, we weren't fully taught about people. They were thrown at us. They did this and then that's it. They never went in depth. And then, for the subject, and I'm speaking of social studies, that all of this should have been taught. Am I saying that right? So I feel like this should have been taught in social studies, and it was not. Like we celebrate, we learn about these people in English class only during Black History Month. Unacceptable. So here we go. Once again, I'd like to reintroduce to some and introduce to others George Washington Carver. So they don't know when he was born. They're assuming that he was born in 1864. They just know that he was born in the United States, so they think. He passed away, though, January 5th, 1943, and he was an American agricultural scientist and inventor who promoted alternative crops to cotton and methods to prevent soil depletion. He was the most prominent Black scientist in the early 20th century. While a professor at Tuskegee Institute, Carver developed techniques to improve soils depleted by repeated plantings of cotton. He wanted poor farmers to grow other crops such as peanuts and sweet potatoes as a source for their own food and to improve the quality of their life. The most popular of his 44 practical bulletins for farmers contained 105 food recipes using peanuts. Wow. Although he spent years developing and promoting numerous products made from peanuts, none became commercially successful. Apart from his work to improve the lives of farmers, Carver was also a leader in promoting environmentalism. He received numerous honors for his work, including the Spingarn Medal of the NAACP. In an era of high racial polarization, his fame reached beyond the Black community. He was widely recognized and praised in the white community for his many achievements and talents. In 1941, Time magazine dubbed Carver a Black Leonardo. Color film of Carver, shot in 1937 at the Tuskegee Institute by African-American surgeon Alan Alexander, was added to the National Film Registry of the Library of Congress in 2019. The 12 minutes of footage includes Carver in his apartment, office, and laboratory, as well as images of him tending flowers and displaying paintings. I'm sorry. Um, So his rise to fame once again was the alternative crops with for planting sweet potatoes, legumes such as peanuts, soybeans, and cowpeas. The crops both restored nitrogen to the soil and were good for human consumption. Following the crop rotation practice resulted in improved cotton yields and gave farmers alternative cash crops. The trained farmers to train farmers successfully rotate and cultivate new crops. Carver developed an agricultural extension program for Alabama that was similar to that of Iowa State. To encourage better nutrition in the South, he widely distributed recipes using the alternative crops. Additionally, he founded an industrial research laboratory where he had assistants work to polarize the new crops by developing hundreds of applications for them. They originally researched as well as promoted applications and theses, which they collected from others. Carver distributed his information as agricultural bulletins. Carver's work was known by officials in the national capital before he became a public figure. President Theodore Roosevelt publicly admired his work. Former professors of Carver's from Iowa State University were appointed to positions of Secretary of Agriculture. James Wilson, a former dean and professor of Carver's, served from 1897 to 1913. Henry Cantell Wallace served from 1921 to 1924. He knew Carver personally, and because his son Henry A. Wallace and the researcher were friends, the younger Wallace served as U.S. Secretary of Agriculture from 1933 to 1940, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Vice President from 41 to 45. So, listen here, I could go on and on, but listen, this man has a lot, and there is a lot, and just like many of our other historians, um, there's a lot that he created that we're just sitting on and don't even know about. Don't even know about. This is why it is important. And if you don't want to pick up a book, Google go Google Black historians, Black inventors, and get to know our historians and their contributions to the world. I'm your girl Decisive here on the right side, and now back to Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you once again for that Black History moment. And one thing just to throw in here before we go into our topics here in the second hour. Regis said about if you don't want to read a book, Google. But it makes me harken back to something that Kyrie Irving said in an interview that we played, is that there was always this saying that if you want to keep something from black people, put it in a book. And sadly, for so many of us, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
It made me think about, I used to teach high school, including public school system in the 80s. And I told my students that I could come in your house after never being in your house and hide a check for $1 million in your house, and you would never find it. They said, "Oh, what do you mean? I would find this money in my check." I said, "Yes, I could." I said, "You know where I would put it? I just put it in a book." Think on that for a moment. Reading is fundamental.
Yes.
And that's how we get
knowledge.
You don't get knowledge from little 10 and 15-second tidbits or tweets or what have you on Twitter or IG or TikTok and all the other various social media forums. You get your real information by reading. So thank you for telling us about a great figure, not just in Black history, a great figure in American history, George Washington Carver. So here in our second hour, our call-in number is 216-939-5087, 216-939-5087. Surprisingly, these phones have been silent. I just thought that, especially on the Kyrie Irving topic, that I would have people calling off the yin-yang about this, but apparently not. It's okay. But if you do have some thoughts, give us a call. But So if you want to still talk about that, you can call us at that number. But here in the second hour, we're going to look at this. Our first thing that we want to talk about is Tuesday. And what is Tuesday? Tuesday is November the 8th. Tuesday is the midterm election. If you've been listening to this program for any amount of time, you know how strongly I feel about this upcoming midterm election and how important I believe it is for the history of democracy in this country. And further proof of that was given this week when freshman Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, soon to be just Marjorie Taylor, I guess, because her and her husband are going through a divorce right now. But anyway, she made the statement, and I quote, that if the Republicans get control of the Congress, that not another penny will go to Ukraine. Now that might not be of any significance to you rather. That might not mean anything. You might be so, oh, well, so what? What does that have to do with me? But think on this. If the U.S. cuts off all military aid to Ukraine and the Western European allies do the same thing, then there will be nothing to stop Vladimir Putin and the Russians from rolling into Kyiv and taking over the country. Now, at this time, as we speak, the Ukrainian armed forces have the Russians on the retreat. But Vladimir Putin has threatened to use limited nuclear weapons. But here's the danger, though, that if the U.S. pulls all support away from Ukraine, and I don't think that's going to happen because there are Senate Republicans that would not vote for that, and so it would have to go to the Senate and pass there too, and I don't believe that's going to happen. Especially too if some elections go the way I hope they go on Tuesday, which we'll talk about in a few moments here. But let's just say the hypothetical situation that good old Margie gets her dream, which has been the dream, by the way, of the far right from the very beginning. From Donald Trump to Tucker Carlson to Marjorie Taylor Greene and others. For this love affair that they have with Vladimir Putin. Do you all realize that if Putin would have been able to roll in and just overrun Ukraine, like many, including yours truly, thought that he was going to do, that there would be very, very little deterrent to stop him from going into Poland, Czech Republic, etc., which are NATO countries, which means that if that happened, now you're talking about the possibility of World War III because part of the NATO alliance is that when one NATO country is attacked, the other NATO countries come to their defense. Why do you think that when Donald Trump was president, why do you think that he was trying so hard to get the U.S. out of NATO? Because he knew that by getting the U.S. out of NATO, then it would be nothing to stop his man crush. Yeah, I said it. His man crush, Vladimir Putin, from rolling in and taking back those independent states that were once part of the Soviet Union: Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Georgia, Ukraine. And with the U.S. out of NATO, then there would be nothing militarily to stop Putin from rolling into, let's say Warsaw, let's say Budapest, let's say Prague. What would be there to stop him? Certainly the Western European allies, Germany, France, England, would not have been powerful enough. You would wonder if there would have been the zeal to do that, being as the fact that in the last century there were two major world wars fought on the European continent. So you see here again further evidence of the importance of this election coming up. because Marjorie Taylor Greene and other far-right Republican, well, really MAGA Republicans, have stated that. This has been their sentiment from the very beginning. They have been supportive of Vladimir Putin and Russia. Tucker Carlson himself, words came out of his mouth that he is rooting for Russia to win. Now, thankfully, due to NATO support, and primarily that support for military support and military aid from the United States, Russia's not winning. Their armies are being thoroughly defeated by the Ukrainians. They're on the retreat. The Ukrainians are starting to get back land that they lost in the initial invasion, the initial phase of the invasion. But I just want you, I'm just putting this out here, folks, because you all think this is a game. You think, oh, and politics, this don't mean anything. If these folks get their way, you can literally put this country and this world on the brink of World War III. While you sit at home and play your computer games, your video games, Call of Duty and what have you, there's gonna be a real Call of Duty going on. So put down the gaming console, get off of IG, get off of TikTok, laughing at the TikTok videos. Get off of Twitter seeing how many likes you got on what you tweeted out. Or how many checks you got on Facebook. For all that stuff is irrelevant. Democracy is on trial in this election. Now I know that some of you don't listen, you don't follow, you don't know, and I'm not speaking down, not condescending to you, I'm just saying you don't know what's going on. Folks, now they're not even hiding. You have MAGA Republicans coming out right saying what they're going to do. There's a MAGA Republican candidate running for Secretary of State in both the states of Arizona and Nevada who have said that if they were in their position of Secretary of State in 2020, they would have not certified the 2020 election. And they said that from now on, any election, basically, that doesn't go the way they think it should go, they're not certified. Folks, that's fascism. Why you playing? Why you sitting around thinking it's not serious? Do you realize that they don't certify elections? That is the death knell for democracy in this country as we know it. So you can sit at home if you want. You can say, as I said last week, they're all corrupt, they're all no good. No, they're not all like that. Do you want to live in a country where your vote doesn't count? Where you do vote, but somebody sitting in the Secretary of State's office, because they don't like the way you voted, they don't like the way the election went, they can just simply decide that we're not going to certify that election. Is that what you want? That's what the whole January 6th was about. I saw an article about, was January 6th the calm before the storm? Think about that. Because that's exactly what the insurrectionists on January 6th were attempting to do. They were attempting to stop the certification of a free and fair election. To throw it into, this was the plot, to stop the certification so that it would be thrown into the House, and because the Republicans had electoral votes in the House, would have decertified the 2020 election, and Donald Trump would have been president. That's how close you came to having that happen. Oh, that wouldn't have happened. We would have allowed that to happen. Oh, really? Okay, well, how are you going to stop?
Mm-hmm. Please tell me.
The answer is you couldn't have stopped. And in essence, you would have had a dictatorship. When people are talking about not certifying free and fair elections, that is fascism. And in case you don't know what fascism is, look up Italy in the 30s and Nazi Germany. Those were two fascist states. Is that what you want in the United States? Oh, that will never happen here because we have a history and tradition of democracy in this country.
Always.
Mm-hmm. Keep thinking that. All I am telling you is this. I understand that the economy is an issue. That prices are high because of inflation. I also know, too, if you're going to make the economy an issue, I also know that unemployment is down to historic levels. The price of gas has fallen. There are jobs. Employers are out there literally begging people to come work for them. And for those who are talking about inflation and how bad it is and how bad the economy is, they either have no solution or they want to go back to a failed solution of trickle-down economics, which contribute to inflation, which contributed to a high unemployment rate and has never worked. Trickle-down or supply-side economics is that you make the top of the tier so wealthy by cutting taxes to the richest people. That's what Donald Trump's tax cuts were all about. Okay? And that because now they are reaping so high profits, if you will, then it's going to trickle down to those who are in the middle class and the lower class. Folks, that supply side economics has never worked. It has contributed to inflation. It has contributed to unemployment. The reason I can go to a whole lot of reasons, but I'll give you the basic reason. You know why supply side doesn't work? Because people are inherently selfish. That's why. They're naturally selfish. So they're not going to make it so that their wealth can trickle down. No, they want to hoard as much as they can. The rich want more. They don't want less. Or they're not content with what they have. So what makes you think they're going to break off a little piece and let it trickle down to you? The economy. Crime, okay? The crime is another issue I hear a lot about. Do you realize that for all of the MAGA types across the country that are running on the platform of crime, crime is out of control. Crime, 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 crime. Joe Biden's America. Crime, 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 crime. You know what? And I'm just talking about two. There are more than this. But two of the highest crime per capita places in the United States, you know where they are? One is the very red state of Oklahoma, who has a higher murder rate per capita than New York does. We're talking about red state, Republican-controlled Oklahoma. Yep. You want to know what another high crime district in the United States is? Is the district that minority leader of the House of Representatives, Kevin McCarthy, in California, his district has one of the highest crime rates in the state of California. But you won't hear that. See, I understand this. I see this with my third eye and hear it with my third ear. You know what they're really doing, folks? And let me say this first. I'm not going to be here and sit here naive and act like violence and crime, especially gun violent crime, is not an issue, not a problem here in this country. It is. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, you know who are most victims of that, though, are the people of color. Right. But the real reason that MAGA types are playing this up is that they're playing to the fears of those that are in the suburbs, who last time in the 2018 midterm elections and in the 2020 presidential election voted against the Republicans and voted against Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. They're playing to the suburbs in Philadelphia. They're playing to the suburbs outside of D.C. How do I know this? Because the election of Glenn Youngkin, who is the governor of Virginia, showed that strategy. Glenn Youngkin is governor of Virginia right now because he won districts in northern Virginia, the suburbs of D.C., Arlington and Fairfax County, that Joe Biden won overwhelmingly in 2020. And they're using that same strategy. Basically is this. They are using, and again, crime is an issue. I'm not saying it's not an issue, because it is, especially gun violence. But they're using that to scare white suburban voters into voting for Republican candidates. Mind you, they have not proposed any viable solutions to this. In fact, I can make the argument that what they have proposed is going to make things worse because they're talking about more guns. Welcome to the Right Side, caller. State your name and where you're calling from. Caller, are you there? I guess not. Well, call back, whoever you are. Be careful and listen to what you hear these candidates say. It's easy to come out and talk about crime, but you have no solution. Example, to my point that I say some of their proposed solutions exacerbate the problem rather than lessening it. One of the solutions proposed by MAGA right candidates throughout this country, one of the solutions to school shootings, if you will, is not passing sensible gun legislation, is not reenacting the assault weapons ban that we had in this country from 1994 to 2004, is not even enacting legislation that would raise the minimum age for a person to purchase an assault weapon, which they shouldn't be able to purchase. But they're not even willing to enact legislation that will raise the minimum age from 18 to 21. No, instead, their solution, if you will, to the problem of school shootings is to arm teachers. Now, a few months ago on this program, we had in studio a Cleveland public school teacher who said that she did not want to be armed. She did not want to have a gun in her classroom, and none of her colleagues did. And most teacher unions, and I would venture to say all, because, and I don't know for a fact it is all, but I have yet to hear, and I'm pretty plugged in, I have yet to hear a teachers union in any state in this country say that they want to see legislation enacted that will allow them to carry guns in the classroom. We can't even you're talking about crime, and yet you won't even pass legislation that will eliminate the gun show loophole. You won't even pass legislation that will intensify background check. which, by the way, the majority of Americans, including the majority of members of the NRA, want. And yet you're going to run on crime? Folks, they either have no solution, want to keep the status quo, or their solution is to make the problem worse by flooding the market with more guns. Abortion. You have seen many Republican candidates flip-flop, especially since the vote that happened in Kansas. Have changed their position, not really changed their position, but removed their stand from their campaign websites. Now you hear them saying stuff like, well, we just want to leave it up to state legislatures. No, they don't. They want to uphold the decision of the Supreme Court to overturn Roe versus Wade. And the irony of that is this, is that the old-style Republicans were for smaller government. Less taxes, smaller government. But not these MAGA types, because the MAGA types are only for less taxes for those who are the richest of the rich. And they are for a bigger government because now they want to dictate, despite how you feel, one way or another, on the whole abortion issue. I am pro-life, all right? But I don't have the right to tell a woman what she can do. I can counsel her, I can talk to her, I can give her my thoughts, but I don't have the right to tell her what to do. The Republican MAGA right, who, as I said, at one time was for smaller government and less taxes, and now for bigger government because now they want to be able to legislate and tell women what they can do. Even in the most extreme cases, folks. I'm talking about even in the case of a miscarriage, where a woman has had a miscarriage and now in some states she has to go to another state to have that dead baby taken out of her. Because in the state that she's in, it is against the law for that. Do you realize that she can die from the sepsis, the poison? Can you realize that? Rape and incest. 11, 12-year-old girls raped by her uncle or her stepfather. But here is the real issue, folks. Here is the most pressing issue of them all. Bigger than crime, bigger than inflation, bigger than abortion, the biggest issue, folks, is the future of democracy in this country. Because if we lose that, then all of this other stuff really is not going to matter. You have, and we pointed this out back in September, it might have been earlier than this, I can't remember which show it was. We pointed this out, that there are 240 Republican candidates running for various offices across this country, in the state and on the federal level, that are election deniers. 240. What if, say, only a half of them win? Now you've got 120 election deniers in various offices wielding power. If the Republicans get control of the House of Representatives and Kevin McCarthy is made the Speaker of the House, he's going to have to make a deal with MAGA types like Marjorie Taylor Greene, like Lauren Boebert, like Paul Gosar, etc., to become the Speaker of the House, he's going to have to make deals with them. Guess what's going to happen when he makes deals with them? They're going to expect something in return. They're going to expect to be appointed as chairpersons to very powerful congressional committees. Marjorie Taylor Greene, in fact, said the quiet part out loud just the other day. She said that these were her words, that if I don't get a committee chairmanship, then people within the base are going to be very disappointed in Kevin McCarthy. Not even speculating this, folks. Marjorie Taylor Greene said that herself. And you don't think this is important. You don't think democracy is on the line. So again, I'm going to give the national roll call out. I'm going to tell you, in New Hampshire, vote for the incumbent. Her opponent is an election denier and a QAnon conspiracist in New Hampshire for Senate, rather. In Pennsylvania, vote for John Fetterman over Mehmet Oz. Mehmet Oz is not qualified to be senator. He doesn't even live in the state of Pennsylvania. So what does he know about Pennsylvania? Vote for Shapiro for governor in Pennsylvania, folks in PA that are listening to me. Doug Mastriano is a conspiracy theorist. He's a QAnon theorist. He's an election denier. Doug Mastriano chartered a bus to go down to the insurrection last year. Now, he wasn't part of the crew that breached the Capitol. But he's an election denier. He's a QAnon conspiracy theorist. Michigan, vote for Gretchen Whitmer for governor over Tudor Dixon. Vote for the incumbent attorney general over her opponent. I told you why in the first hour when her opponent said that if she is elected, she is going to release those people who have been convicted that were plotting to kidnap and basically execute Governor Gretchen Whitmer back in 2020. In Florida, vote for Val Demings over Marco Rubio, who did not vote to certify the election in 2020. Vote for Charlie Crist over Ron DeSantis for governor, who's not even really campaigning for governor. He's really running for president right now. Who in a debate, when Charlie Crist asked him, can you promise if you win, you will serve out your full term? He didn't answer the question. The same Ron DeSantis who paid somebody to basically lie, to hijack people from the state of Texas, which he's not even a part of, and fly them to Martha's Vineyard. Vote for Charlie Crist for governor in Florida. Vote for Val Demings for Senate. In North Carolina, vote for Sherry Beasley. Do not vote for Bud. Bud is an election denier. That's the Senate race in North Carolina. In Wisconsin, vote for Mandela Barnes, not Ron Johnson. Not only is Ron Johnson an election denier, but Ron Johnson has already said that he wants to raise the minimum age to receive Social Security from 65 to 67 and Medicaid to 70. Well, I'm 35, 40 years old. That doesn't affect me. Yeah, we'll keep living.
Right. to say that.
Vote for Mandela Barnes for Senate in Wisconsin. In Georgia. I was ready to sing, I'd sing the song Ray Charles did. Please vote for Reverend Raphael Warnock for Senate. Herschel Walker has as much business being a member of the Senate as a tsetse fly. Herschel Walker, can you really see Herschel Walker introducing legislation in the Senate? Can you see Herschel Walker speaking on geopolitical issues like Ukraine, for example, he knows nothing about? Herschel Walker will be nothing but a rubber stamp to what the Republican Party. He is not going to be an effective senator because he is not qualified to be a senator.
No more than he's qualified to be a parent.
And Marie said no more than he's qualified to be a parent. Yeah, you're going to vote for a guy who says he's against abortion, but 3 women have come out and said that he paid them money, gave them money to go get abortion. Not to mention taking care of the children that he does have. This shouldn't even be a close contest.
Right.
Reverend Warnock should win this in a runaway, but it's not. It's going to be tight. It's probably what's going to happen in all likelihood, since in Georgia, you cannot win until you have at least 50% of the vote. This is going to go to a runoff. And vote for Stacey Abrams for governor. Stacey Abrams is responsible for so many people in Georgia being registered to vote, as opposed to her opponent, who purged 70,000 voters off the rolls back in 2018 when they ran against each other then. And finally, in the state where I reside, the state of Ohio, vote for Tim Ryan for Senate over J.D. Vance, another election denier, one handpicked by Donald Trump, who didn't even have the guts enough to stand up and Trump and reject what Trump said about him at a rally in Youngstown. When Trump said, this guy kissed my ass to get my endorsement. He said that.
Sweet mother of Jesus.
He didn't even have the guts to stand up to that. So what makes you think he's going to have the guts to stand up for Ohio?
Right.
And even though Governor Mike DeWine did a fantastic job during COVID, I commend him for that. I commended him for it when it was going on. I say vote for Nan Whaley because Mike DeWine has signed into legislation, gun legislation, stand your ground, and also signed into legislation, gun legislation that will allow people to conceal and carry without any training. And yet we're concerned about crime. Very quickly, because we're almost out of time here. The college football playoff rankings came out earlier this past week. And the first rank, now first of all, people are losing their minds, going nuts. Listen, these rankings really don't mean anything because they're going to change as quickly as today. Is right now, the number 1 team in the CFP, Tennessee, is playing the number 3 team in the CFP, Georgia. So whoever loses that game, they're going to be out the top 4 now anyway. Ohio State was 2, and the controversy was Clemson being number 4, which I don't see either. Clemson hasn't played anybody number 1, and they struggled against Syracuse. They struggled against Syracuse, folks. That should tell you all you need. And it wasn't bad weather conditions, because I know you said, well, Ohio State struggled against Northwestern today. It wasn't bad weather conditions. It was a picture-perfect day. Clemson does not belong number 4. Who belongs number 4? I'm putting all my personal feelings and bias aside right here. You know who should have been ranked number 4 in that rating? I'm going to say the name of the team that I normally don't say. But we're going to be professional here. The number 4 team in the country should have been Michigan, folks. But again, as I said, don't get all crazy about this first rating because all of that's going to change anyway. As I said, Tennessee and Georgia are playing now, so somebody's not going to be in the top 4. You got the SEC championship game coming up later. And in 3 weeks from today, in Columbus, Ohio, you've got the game. So a lot's going to change between now and when the final rankings come out. But I just felt that was kind of curious that Clemson was 4, Alabama, the Michigan was 5, and Alabama was 6. So we'll see. Our hero and our zero of the week as we close. Our hero of the week, I'm giving the hero of the week to Ray Guy. Ray Guy got into the Hall of Fame way too late. Should have been inducted into the Hall of Fame way before 2014. Who revolutionized the game of the NFL when it came to special teams, who, because his punts that he kicked were so high and hung up in the air for so long, they literally invented the term hang time because of his punts. And punters were measured by how much hang time they were. But not only was he a great punter, he was a great athlete. He would play baseball in high school, struck out 15, was a safety in college, and also played quarterback and was the emergency quarterback for the Oakland/LA Raiders during his career. Ray Guy passed away the other day at the age of 72. So Ray Guy, you're my hero of the week. My zero of the week is MSNBC. I know that may shock some, but MSNBC is my zero of the week, and they're my zero of the week because they dismissed Tiffany Cross from the Cross Connection. They just did that action on yesterday. Why? I don't know what the reasons were. Her ratings weren't bad. She confronted the issues that needed to be confronted and confronted them head on. So why this move was made, I don't know. But because of it, MSNBC is our zero of the week. You've been listening to The Right Side on No Static Radio, where we don't bring the static, but we sure enough bring the noise, powered by Google and sponsored by Lamont Avenue Wines. But right now, I see that my time is up. Thank you very much for your time. And until next Saturday at 3 p.m., shalom. I wonder who that was that called.
Let's see here. It was from Maryland. It was 804.
That's Virginia. Oh, you know who that was?
would like to thank you for tuning in to The Right Side with your host, Jeff Doggett, here on the station where we don't bring no static, but we sure enough bring the noise on staticradio.net. Make sure you guys check us out on social media where we absolutely love to hear from you on Facebook.com/No Static Radio LLC, on Twitter at No Static_radio, on Instagram at TheReal_No Static Radio, and on YouTube at No Static Radio. Also, if you guys would like to listen to replays of this show and others on NoStaticRadio.net, make sure you check us out on Mixler.com or Mixcloud.com. Just type in No Static Radio, all one word, in the toolbar for replays of this show and others. And for continuous streaming, that means no refreshing. Just sit back, relax, and wait for your next show to pop up. Check us out on TuneIn.com, LiveOnlineRadio.net, or MediaQ for continuous streaming of this show and all others on this platform. And for all things No Static Radio, including up-and-coming events, merchandise, and an in-depth look at all our great show hosts here, please check out our website at www.nostaticradio.net. Soon to be under construction. You guys, I know I keep saying that, but for now, go on there, take a look at some of the people that we've had on here, we've been blessed to have, and check out some of the new stuff, or some of our regular tenured hosts here, and stay tuned for all of our new people that'll be viewed on there, and you get to know them a whole lot better. And in the meantime, in between time, you know what it is, we got my music for your weekend listening pleasure here on your voice of the revolution, NoStaticRadio.net. Powered by Google, sponsored by Lamont Avenue Wines and Cleveland Rugby League, and designed exclusively. You guys be safe, be well, have a great weekend, enjoy this weather, and go Cavs, and go Browns, and go Charge. Have a great weekend, you guys. Peace.